You ready? Okay. Hey, I'm Shelby Bond. I'm a touring performer, live theater, and I've been making my living doing this for over 20 years. My first Fringe was in the year 2000. I went to Edmonton, to North America's largest Fringe, and when I was there, people told me about Winnipeg. And now I haven't done Edmonton in years, but I always come back and do Winnipeg. When I was a kid, my mother is a playwright, so I grew up in the theater, and I've been around it my whole life. I feel so lucky to get to do live theater. Ever since I was a little kid, all I've ever wanted to do was bring people together and make them laugh. And with my shows, that's what I get to do. So this year with One Man Back to the Future, I was trying to think about what could help bring us back together after these long 3 years now of pandemic. I was trying to think about what's kind of unifying. And I thought about something like Back to the Future is such a kind of a universally known and fun entity that to get a group of people together as an audience and for all of us to recreate this classic movie could be really bonding and could bring us back together when we're all feeling slightly awkward after having sat on our couch for the last 3 years trying to get to the end of Netflix. So now let's get back up, have some fun, and I just feel so lucky to be able to do this for a living.
And I noticed one common theme that I've seen in many of your plays is you have audience participation. I've seen that in several of your plays.
Yeah.
Is that kind of a trademark of yours now?
I love immersive, interactive theater. And so for me, I want to play with the audience. I think a lot of us are kind of craving not just being spectators, but being participants in some kind of community art. And there's a great quote by Lynn Gardner of The Guardian. She does in London. She says, audiences are no longer content to just sit back and watch a show when they can storm the stages. And I think that we all kind of want to find ways to come together. We spent so much time looking at screens, looking at our phones, being online doesn't feel like a real connection, which, we're lucky we had Zoom over these past few years, but it doesn't feel, there's no soul to it. And so something like live theater and really talking to and interacting with the audience to create something together, I think is a bonding and important experience.
So when you visit other fringes, do you also do the interaction too? Like not just Winnipeg, but other cities?
Yeah, I do a lot of events that involve kind of interactivity with the audience. Many years ago, before I even started doing fringes, I was doing Renaissance festivals. And at a Renaissance festival, they're huge in America. When you show up, you are put into a world where all the actors in the streets, Germans, Frenchmen, all from the Renaissance, will all talk to you directly and interact with you and improv with you and play with you in the streets. And it's that really gave me my initial love for interacting directly with an audience member and not having a fourth wall. Because at the Renaissance Fair, where there's literally thousands of performers when you go into these places, there's no fourth wall. They're talking and interacting directly with you as if you are in the English Renaissance. And I thought that was a really beautiful way to spend a day, to where, God, you especially see it with kids, and they light up when somebody talks to them and asks for their help with something they're painting or something, and you actually get to come up and help. It's so much more than just sitting back and watching. So everywhere I go with all my shows, because I do a lot of shows, I do a cowboy comedy show where I deputize kids from the audience. I do a silent chimney sweep show called Jim Chimney, where it's kind of Charlie Chaplin-esque with a lot of clowning. I do immersive ghost shows. Everything I do has some element of the audience being directly involved and not just watching.
So the background of your education, you obviously went to university or college in theater. Did they kind of cover that in the school, or did you just adapt this when you graduate from the school?
I went to undergrad in Boulder, Colorado, and studied theater, and we even did some experimental stuff, some improv, things like that. But it wasn't until many years later, which was actually 2018, 2019, I went back to get my master's at the Royal Central School of Speech and Drama in London. So when I was there, I did a course that was all about advanced theater practice, which was experimental theater. And I focused on on interactivity. So creating theater in unique spaces, site-specific. And my thesis was on the difference between interactive, participatory, immersive kinds of theater, and how these different ways that audiences can interact with theater. And so the Fringe is a great place to experiment with. And the patrons that come to Fringes are enthusiastic about trying something new, which allows us artists to try something new, and we get to go on that journey together.
And you mentioned you also participated in international festivals of Edinburgh and other ones. So do you pick up ideas or interact with other people and get some discussion going? Maybe find an idea?
Yeah, it's a great question. Yeah, I've done the Adelaide Fringe in Australia 10 years in a row. I did the Edinburgh Fringe for 7 years. And a lot of times you'll see the same performers out on the circuit. So you see them here in Winnipeg, and then the next thing you know, you're in Edinburgh and you run into them in the streets in Scotland. And I love that sense of community. And afterwards, it's usually about halfway through the Fringe, any Fringe, that everyone starts talking about what they want to do next year. And you all bounce ideas off of each other, and all the artists are having fun, getting ideas, going out to see as many shows and going, oh, I might be able to do something like that, but kind of switch it. And, people are getting really fun ideas on what to do the next year. And there's a lot of synergy between all the performers.
So when you've done shows in other cities, have you had sold-out shows?
Yeah, I've been lucky. The show that I produced in Los Angeles, which was part of my program for London recently in 2019, right before the pandemic, I did a very immersive show, and we sold out 2 shows a night, 6 days a week for 3 months. We sold out the whole run. It was really fantastic.
And I noticed that your main genre you like is comedy. Would you ever try something other than comedy?
Sure, and I have. There's always going to be an element of comedy in what I do, I think. But there's a local artist named Robin Slade, very talented writer and performer here. And, she asked me to collaborate with her for a couple of different plays, and those were so different than anything I would have done on my own. And so to step back and get somebody else's voice and vision and be able to fill that is really rewarding, and it's fun to me to try something totally new. But I definitely lean toward comedy.
So with regard to this play then, are you every night or daytime for the show? Are you playing every...
I think I have 2 days off, but I'm doing, I think, 8 shows throughout the run. I've got this big, wonderful theater, and once the audience comes in, if they know that that they get to play and have a good time and it's a party, I think it's important at the first of the show that I get to shake it up and let them know that they don't just have to sit back and take it seriously, but they get to play and laugh and sing along and all that kind of stuff. So playfulness and comedy here at the Winnipeg Fringe all the way through the end.
And one thing I noticed that you did too with the audience is you interacted with them before the show started. Like, hello, welcome. Like you get personal with people. Yeah, because then for many years, and with the troupe I used to be with, Sound and Fury, long ago, we realized that if we hung out with people a little bit before the show and got to know them, that when we got to stage, we were already friends, And I'll tell you a quick story about that. There's a great story about the Monkees, the band, the Monkees. The studio filmed the Monkees show, their pilot TV show, and they were really excited about it. And they showed it to test audiences, and they got some of the lowest ratings they'd ever gotten for a TV show. And they were like, this makes no sense. They're so great. And one of the producers says, I don't understand that once you know them, you can't help but love them. And the editor goes, hold on, I've got an idea. I went back and edited an intro to where, if you remember the Monkees TV show, there's an intro where they're like, Davey, and it gives, and you kind of get to know them before the show starts. They showed that with the new beginning to audiences, and they got some of the highest ratings they'd ever gotten for a television show ever. And it was all about the audience connecting with the performers. And I've always held that close because, especially for interactive theater, it's really important that they trust you and they're willing to go along for the ride and not just sit back and watch. And I understand that you're doing something in Texas right now, non-fringe shows.
Yeah, so for the past few years dealing with the pandemic, I've been producing haunted events that are also interactive. They're kind of like kind of an escape room meets immersive play, meets ghost history. And the thing I did there last year called Scare Station got Fodor's Guide listed as one of the top 13 Halloween events in America, so I'm really proud of that. And I'm doing that. I'm doing Wild West events. I'm just starting to produce more, which means I get to get more people to come out and play.
And it's always just a one-man show then? You don't have any...
No, I bring a lot of people in on these different shows. So when I'm directing, I usually have a cast of actors. When I'm performing, sometimes it's just me.
And if people want to find out more about you, can they reach on social media? Do you have a website?
Yeah. My name is Shelby Bond, ShelbyBond. And if you go to shelbybond.com, you'll see all the many different projects I have going on. And I hope wherever you are watching this, I hope I get to come to your city and make you laugh soon.
Well, thanks very much for talking with us, and good luck with the rest of your plays. Hope you get some sold-out shows.
Thank you for supporting the arts and for having me.
Thank you.